guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. It's been a beautiful, beautiful week, and our fall color this year,
unmatched.
yeah, it's so pretty out there right now. Last year we didn't get that.
No.
I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think we had a cold snap earlier than we expected.
Yeah.
And things like the maple trees, the leaves just turned brown and crisped up and then dropped off onto the ground, and they never looked pretty.
I remember kind of like despairing a little bit, and I was thinking, oh, it was a bad choice.
Bad choice.
We shouldn't have planted those.
But they're absolutely beautiful. We
Yeah.
do have a couple of hard frosts on the forecast, I think. Do I have my phone? Yes. Let me double check and see, because I thought one of the nights said like 27. Oh, not anymore. Okay, so, well, we have a 28. And a lot of...
Is that a hard frost? 28?
28 and lower is a hard frost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But like tonight, it's going to get 31. So it's freezing, and 30. A couple more of those nights. So we'll start winterizing things here fairly soon-ish. I don't think we'll blow out our sprinklers till the first week of November is when we're scheduled to have that happen. So we'll just kind of carry on and enjoy the fall that we've had. It's been an absolute gift. Today is the last day I'm making a push through the cut flower garden to dig out any remaining things that are there. And then we're going to start planting because everything is clear. That was a job.
We had to get those trees in and the boxwoods.
Yeah, we'll do it.
I feel like we should have done that a week ago.
Well, I mean, we haven't had time. I mean,
I
we're
suppose.
working as fast as we can.
Yeah.
Really. Okay, let's jump into the videos from this past week. The first one was planting Aronia, which was the low scape hedger. And then Yarrow, it was the fuchsia, firefly fuchsia, and then some bulbs that Proven Winner sent out. There's like a red double and then some Mascari that was a double. It's so pretty. So
I couldn't find where to get those bulbs. I don't know if you find them at garden centers. I know that Proven Winners had some kind of a bulb program where you could get some at Home Depot.
Oh.
Or maybe Lowe's.
Well, my parents are carrying some of their daffs. I know that. At the garden center, so I don't know.
Who knows?
They just showed up, and I was like, oh, bulbs. Excellent. I don't want to seem ungrateful. This year, I was like, no bulbs. I'm not planting any bulbs in the ground, which I only planted a few Mascari in the ground.
It's so nice in the spring, though.
I know, it is. It really is. But I ended up putting the rest of them in containers, and I'm really excited about it. And you guys, I still have crates of bulbs in the root cellar. But I intend to plant most of those in the heated greenhouse because I want to grow them on, because they've been in chilled temperatures, like they've had their cold treatment. So I can get them out, plant them, and then hopefully have some blooms really early for cutting. Like, cutting is the purpose, because they're going to be in ugly crates. They're not going to be to take out and display once they start blooming. So I'm really looking forward to that project. And whatever I have left over, because I'm not going to do... I mean, those bulbs multiplied like crazy in the ground last year, so I'm not going to plant all of them. I'll just give away the remaining ones. So Sharon said, do you have any suggestions for fragrance in the garden? Yes, I do. What was your top fragrance plant?
Chatalpa.
Yeah, El Nino Chatalpa. The heptacodiums are awesome. Temple of Bloom is one that we have that I absolutely love, and that's a summer bloomer. The Chatalpa blooms all summer long. It's always in bloom and always smells amazing. That's probably the most fragrant plant I've ever had. What other ones for high fragrance? I'm just trying to think of our garden and, like, when we walk around, is there anything that really...
Lindens,
linden
will smack you in the
trees.
face just during spring.
Uh-huh.
But there's nothing else besides the Chatalpas. I haven't noticed the heptacodium.
Oh, really? I'll have you come over and smell it.
Yeah.
It doesn't perfume the air like the...
Chatalpa.
Yeah, and of course there's hyacinths and things like that. We can't grow jasmine or gardenias, those really fragrant things. We can't grow those here. But if you were in a more mild climate, those would be good. I'm sure you can Google a list of really fragrant things too, but top of the list for me is the El Nino Chatalpa. Stephen Wiles said no uploads in 2 days. We did take Friday off of last week. It just... I was still kind of trying to get on top of things after the Dreamstream project, and we moved warehouses the same time that the Dreamstream was going on. There was a lot of activity going on, and I tried. I tried to stay on track, and I had kind of front-loaded a little bit before the Dreamstream. I worked really hard to make sure that we could still post during the Dreamstream and all of that, and then it just kind of all culminated, and I was like, I need a day. I need a day to regroup, so I'm not working through weekends and things like that. So it was nice to have that day off, and we might do that. We've always toyed with that notion, like like December and January, maybe taking Wednesdays off from posting and just doing like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, just for like kind of the off gardening months, which would be an enormous break for me for sure. But I always feel weird about it. And like, I almost feel like I need the that productivity
Sure. Yeah.
because I like to
You
keep
like
myself.
to put a check on the day.
I do. I like to keep myself busy. So it might be something we do from time to time throughout the winter months. So you might see several posts come up. I try to post on YouTube community and then also on whatever I'm posting on Instagram. It goes over to Facebook automatically. But I usually try to put like a little note in that post just saying like, just so you know. So we do try to get that out there so that nobody thinks that anything's gone awry or gone wrong with us. C-Bar said, is it heated where you are putting the tulips? If not, how cold will this get? It is not heated in the high tunnel back there, which is good. For tulips, they do need to be subjected to temps, I think, below 50 for a number of weeks. I think it's around 10 to 12 weeks in order for the bloom to form. They have to have that cold treatment. So in that high tunnel, I want to say, what do you think, Erin? It stays like 15 degrees, anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees warmer than the ambient temperature outside. So if it gets down to 0, it'll still freeze in there.
Yeah.
But it takes the edge off if there's like extreme winds or whatever.
Yeah, probably a 10 degree.
You think 10 degrees, maybe? Yeah. But when the sun's out, even if it's frigid, if the sun's out, those structures heat up.
Yeah.
Quite quickly.
It probably improves by a single zone. Wouldn't you think?
So? At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrea said, do you protect your ceramic pots in any way so they don't crack during freeze-thaw cycles during the winter? I do not. Most of our pots are thick concrete, most of them. We've got a few resin and terracotta. Last year was the first time I actually had terracotta pots crack in the wintertime that I can remember. And I leave terracotta pots out, usually. But it was right underneath the flower shed. I have those 2 boxwoods at the corners, and one of them in particular, like whenever we got rain, it was getting like all of it. And I think it was just too much, and that one succumbed. But, you know, the best thing you can do if you want to protect the life of your containers and concrete and all of that is either to wrap it or to bring it in somewhere where it's protected. I mean, that's taking care of it the best you can. But I enjoy looking at it through the winter, too. It's a huge part of our winter interest, really. Sure. Brian said, what a fun bunch of projects. Will the yarrow spread or stay put? I have never had any of the firefly yarrows spread. Now, we are a dry climate, so do keep that in mind. But yarrow likes it dry. So in a really wet climate, I don't know that it would actually spread either.
I think it has the opportunity to spread because we run drip.
So
around
it's like subbing out.
It could, yeah. I mean, the water is, it could spread.
It could, but it doesn't.
No.
It clumps out like a normal perennial. But I don't have runners. I don't have a pop-up from seed. I'd never have. It's never been a problem. Scribney said, you never cease to amaze me. Question, would you skip the biotone with the yarrow in other months as well, or is it just because winter is coming? Nope, yarrow is just an unnecessary one to fertilize. It just doesn't need it. Kind of like Russian sage and sedum. Amy said, so were you pleased to see the bulb shipment or kind of... because you had not counted on planting bulbs? My initial reaction was like, I don't want to go take bulbs for bulbs. But then I got to looking at them. I thought, oh, these are really pretty. And it was nice of them to send those out. Like, I'm always grateful for that, always. Because even if it's something that I don't end up planting, which I did end up planting almost all of them. I still have to plant the extra muscari in the urns. But I always can find homes for them. That is never a hard thing to do around here. Budget Gardening Vita said, by the time the tulips emerge, won't it be too cold to display them out in the landscape? No, once the tulips emerge, it's not dramatically hot enough in there to be too much of a difference. I mean, we might gain ourselves a couple of weeks of bloom time out of it, and I don't think that that's going to hurt them at all. Sleepy Kitten said, what is she thinking putting the aronia so close to the blue spruce? Well, I like it there. That's why I put it there. That should seem obvious.
Well, spruces grow pretty slowly.
They do. They grow slow, and the aronia doesn't get big. It's not like some of the other aronia varieties that get massive, but I explained that in the video. Yeah, I like it right there. I think it's pretty.
You sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, you sort of have to plan your garden to where like some things are going to come out in the end.
Yeah. Well, that's your MO too. Like we were doing mixed borders along the dirt lands, and I always push for spacing it more most of the time. But you're like, let's just cram it in there and we'll just take stuff out as things get bigger.
Well, because a lot of those things, like the pines and the spruces and stuff, it's going to be like 10 years before they really have any size. And you kind of want
you want to enjoy the space.
You want to enjoy the space in the meantime. And I feel like I mean, yeah, it just depends on your, like, if you really want to pull stuff out later.
Yeah.
And
That's just our
also,
thing too. We're constantly moving things around and
in this area
pulling
too,
things.
you're going to have some things that just kick the can. Is that the right
Kick
saying?
the bucket?
Kick the bucket? Yeah. Like they'll just die for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of almost need to plant a little heavy, planning for the fact that some stuff
Some
is
things
going
may
to,
not thrive.
yeah,
Yeah.
is going to die.
Next video was transplanting roses and rhubarb and bringing the tropical water lilies in, which you guys, the big one that we moved out of the pond into the big bowl is in bloom right now, and it's gorgeous. So far, so good. I haven't even turned the heat on in the greenhouse yet, but I will on the nights where it's going to be 30 or lower. I think that's when we'll start kicking it on. So that it just takes the edge off in there. And again, we don't heat that super warm. It'll be like in the high 50s probably, but it heats up in the day quite a lot. Which it's nice at this point. Like Samantha, if she wants to come out and play and it's crummy outside, I know she can go in the greenhouse and play in the sandbox and it's nice and toasty and she takes her coat off and her shoes off and totally comfortable in there. And then I did dig up just 5 of the original 18 that I had marked of the roses in the rose garden to move. I just ended up looking at that and knowing all the work we had ahead of us to get that space, the whole space cleared so that we get those dang boxwoods in the ground. They're just sitting there looming. I just decided, you know what? These will go to good homes. They will be enjoyed by other people, and I don't need to have to move 18 roses. I will pick 5. I moved those, and every single other rose went into a new home. They were all dug up by friends and Bethany. In fact, I gave Bethany first shot at anything that she wanted because I told her anybody who has to deadhead these roses gets first pick of the roses. And then when I ended up opening my 18 that I had originally tagged, I let her choose any of them, any of the 18 that she wanted. And there were a few, like that Sweet Mademoiselle. She took that one.
Yeah.
And that's one that I will definitely repeat in my garden at some point. I will look for that variety. It's a beautiful one. And the fragrant, that's another really fragrant plant. And then I did dig up rhubarb. It was 3 rhubarb plants. It ended up being 4 because one of them kind of split apart in the move. So I planted a drift of rhubarb in the garden.
As one does.
It's going to be pretty, I think. Okay, so Barbara said, love your videos. I've learned so much. Do you take all the leaves off your roses for winter? I have 2 in pots, Julia Child and a David Austin. Nah, sometimes. Usually, like this year, we'll probably just leave everything alone. In the spring, we'll go through and we defoliate everything if there's still leaves stuck to it and rake out from, underneath. They do provide extra protection to the plant. I mean, that's definitely a thing. They will provide extra habitat for bugs and stuff, both good and bad bugs, so keep that in mind. Also, I don't think it's wrong to clean out your garden in the fall if that's when you like to do it, or if that's when you have time to do it. Do it when it makes sense and when it's not a burden. I always did 100% of my clean out in the fall when I worked down at the garden center. Because in the spring, I mean, you guys know what a garden center is like in the spring. It was wild and there just wasn't the time. And I honestly like looking at the garden all slicked up and tidy through the winter. There was something like very peaceful about that because it didn't look like a ton of work just waiting for me, that soggy, messy work in the spring. So anyway, that's my take on that. Hair for Thought said, what kind of gravel do you have in the greenhouse? It looks larger than pea gravel. It is, and probably doesn't get stuck in the tread of your shoes. It does not. It's a 3/4 chip is what it is. And that is what our driveway is. And it's really nice.
Yeah.
It kind of compacts. It's easy to walk on. And no, it doesn't get stuck in the tread.
That's the worst too when you're walking around and especially wearing boots.
We were at my nephew's football game last night and there was a playground. So Samantha, of course, wanted to go play in the playground. So I spent most of my time over there. They had pea gravel in that playground and it was like a foot deep. I felt like it was hard
swimming through it?
to walk through. Yeah, I thought, oh, yeah, it's probably softer for the kids, like if they fall, but no good. B.S. Lindsay said, love your channel. Please tell me where'd you get the large water lily bowls? Those are from Aquascape. They're called, I think they're just patio bowls is what they're called. Yeah. And there's 4 different sizes, I believe. They used 2 in the splash pad, and then the other 2 stayed here in the... No, I think there might have been 5, because did Chris take one?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. 4 or 5 sizes. Oh, and we're going to have some Aquascape stuff in our store here soon.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to come today, maybe.
Is it?
Although it'll take, we got to put it on the website. And...
Yeah. I actually bought this really cool thing. They did not send this. I bought it online. Hold on. So this is an Aqua Garden tabletop fountain kit in the color gray. I saw some of these when we were there. So after the dream stream, I thought I need to get some more water around the house, like, or even in here. I'd love to have a little water garden in here with some sound. So this has a little waterfall in it, and then there's like a little shelf for plants, and there's a little light that comes with it, so a little grow light. So you've got everything that you need. And I've put together one of their like kits like this at one time. Remember the Halloween one I did?
Yeah.
It was much larger though. This one is like obviously a lot smaller. I think we'll have these though in the store. So I'm going to put this together here pretty soon. Good inside project for Crummy Day. Melinda said, do you think you'll end up with as few dahlias as roses? We have so many roses on this property, even minus the rose garden, which as it was, we didn't even have the rose garden filled up yet. I think I had space for 80 some roses and we had 60-ish in there. It was a lot. But we have tons in flower beds.
Well, we did a rose tour like 2 years ago, before we had the rose garden, and it was a long tour. We don't typically do a rose garden or rose tour because they never all look good at the same time. But I remember a couple of years ago, like the stars aligned, and we were like, man, all the roses look good. Let's go like tour them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot.
So as few dahlias as roses. I'll probably have fewer dahlias than roses because there are so many roses. When you plant your roses, do you put the graft below soil level or even with it? Well, you know what? I used to plant it above. I used to plant it above, and I never had any issues with my roses. And then I watched a David Austin tutorial, and they always put the graft below. So I started putting it below, and I've never had a problem with it. So both ways, I've never had a problem with. So I don't know. I feel like they look a little bit better if you put the graft below the soil surface. I feel like it makes the rose look like it's just kind of anchored a little bit better. But I don't know. I know there's some people that probably have some very definite opinions on that one, but I've just had good luck both ways. And for me, it's all about experience. You know, like that's how I learn, is by experimenting. So both those experiments went well through the years. Ashley said, where do you buy drip tape irrigation? We need to redo our bed irrigation. From Drip Depot is the drip tape.
But soon, you know, I swear Ken told me that he ordered a bunch of
Rainbird stuff,
But that we won't be bringing drip tape. So still Drip Depot.
Yeah. Carol said, this is off topic, but I know you will give good advice. I don't know about that. I'm South Georgia 9B. I want to move about 25 dahlias this fall and immediately replant them in weed fabric. Since they survive in the ground year round, should I wait till we have a killing frost to do this, or can I cut them back and replant now? I think you can cut them back and replant them. If this is a time you can do it, do it. I think as far as like digging tubers, you do want to make sure that you're giving your tubers enough time to form up properly, because they're the energy source, they're the nutrient and energy source for the plant. And if they don't have a chance to form up all the way, then you might not get as quick production or as nice production the next year if the tubers just haven't matured as much. So, but if you're planting early in the season and waiting until late, I mean, we've just removed, and I'll show you when I go out today in video, we cut back all but 11 dahlias out in our dahlia patch, and we're just gonna let them overwinter in the ground, and whatever survives I'll dig and move next year. But they haven't been killed by a frost, and we didn't film it because I wanted to spare your feelings for all the flowers there. I mean, some of them were there were a few nice flowers out there. A lot of them had already succumbed to some kind of a cold damage, even though it hasn't been technically freezing yet. But it's still especially from a distance, it looks like it was still a very vibrant patch. So anyway,
that's so funny. It doesn't bother me one bit.
It bothers people. It bothers some people to see things come out.
They're gonna go
in
a
2
week.
days. Yeah.
So
maybe even tonight.
Right.
Right. So you might buy yourself a few days, but I think that can be a little painful, and I don't want. I get that too. It's not easy for me either. I don't like to see color going away, but we got to do it because we've got to get the other project going.
Well, yeah, because we've got the other project in the works. I feel like we're risking the lives of 12 big trees for the sake of seeing a little bit of color on the dahlias, because they're going to go either way.
Right.
To me, it makes no logical sense not to let's pull these out as quick as we can.
Yeah. If you waited this long, I think even if the plants look nice, I think, well, and you're in a 9B, so they're probably going to look good for a long time. I would just go ahead and move them. I don't think you'd be hurting them at all. Christina said, do you still use HoseLink brand for all your hoses? I'm looking for a new hose and love yours. Primarily.
Yeah.
You bought a few Vigo?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they were I would say not as good unless you absolutely have to have a longer length, in which case go for it.
Yeah.
But, I wish Hose Link would come out with a longer length.
But in that case, you get a smaller diameter hose.
Yeah, which is what the Vigo did.
Yeah.
And also every other brand of hose, like we tried, was there like a Gorilla brand or what was it? It was some animal, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think it was Gorilla.
Really?
No.
I don't know.
Elephant. Giraffe. It was a giraffe. It was Giraffe Tools.
Was it?
Yeah, Giraffe Tools.
Yeah.
So they have a smaller diameter hose, but also I swear it's like less rubber. So it kinks right where you put the water wand.
Yeah.
On.
It's not strong enough to
It's not strong enough to actually hold the water wand. So as you're trying to water your plants with a water wand, it kinks right at that connection, and it does not do that on the Hose Link. So for that reason, Hose Link is the clear winner.
Yeah. Nicole said, everything looks so tidy. Question, when you take the annuals out, does it help the soil at all to leave the roots to decompose over the winter? Would the soil benefit from that at all? I think it does. I mean, because it's organic matter, and anything that you leave in there to break down and kind of help condition the soil is a good thing. Like some years we'll leave corn, like, you cut the stalks off and use them for decorating. We'll leave them, and they decompose partially by the time we need to pull them out the next spring, and it makes them way easier to pull because when we cut our corn stalks, they're still firmly rooted in the ground hard, and you have to use shovels and stuff to yank them out. But in the spring, you can just go along and pop them out because they've had a chance to kind of decompose a bit. So anyway, I do think it's a good thing. Not a bad thing at all. Yeah. Most of the time, though, when we pull things, it's easier to pull the roots out at the time you pull the plant because you've got a much better grip. And usually I want to clear the way for something else, and I don't want to have to run into a bunch of root balls to dig and I kind of like it to be cleared out. Nancy said, I'm very inexperienced with roses. I put 2 rose bushes in my garden this year. Would you prune your roses as much this time of year if you weren't moving them? No, I mean, I'd clean them up a bit, and then I go through in the spring and really cut them back hard. I would not trim them back like I did to move them. The only reason why I cut them like really close to the root ball is so that the roots would have a chance to root in instead of focusing on keeping a lot of the leaf canopy and stems and branches alive. Kind of diverts that energy into where I want it to go. Next video was cutting flowers for a wedding, planting trees, and harvesting pumpkins. So I started off just filling up a bunch of buckets with whatever nice dahlia flowers I could find out in the patch and sent those off to a wedding that Bethany she spearheaded a lot. It was a friend of hers, and they took tubs of our Christmas lights. I think sets of my lanterns went, space heaters, a bunch of things came from here.
Wedding by Gardenetzer.
Yeah. Pretty much. But Bethany handled the food, and she just was a huge part of that wedding. Anyway, we did a little test on the dahlias a couple days prior just to make sure they weren't loaded with thrips. I don't even know if we found more than 1 thrip. We just tapped the blooms on our palm, and you can see thrips crawling around. I found more than that after, I don't know, I think there might just be little patches of them, but I did check the flowers that went out and I didn't see any, and it all went well. And then we planted trees. Did we plant 6 that day?
I don't remember how many we planted.
I think, you and Paul planted them. It was 6.
Was it?
Because I went and the kids and I did some stuff, and Paul jumped in and helped. You and I placed them, and there was the 2 Vanderwolfs, the Kentucky coffee tree, the purple ash, the blue spruce, and there was, and the plum. There's 6. 5 of them in the Dirtlands, and 1 of them replaced a Serbian spruce in the South Garden that was looking really crappy. And then when that was all done, I went and harvested the Jack B. Little pumpkins that I started from seed August the 7th as an experiment to see if they would grow and produce something by Halloween, and they did. Way less than normal. If we plant a Jack B. Little in May and then harvest in October or September, I'll get 30 to 50 little pumpkins off of a mound of the pumpkins, and I got 14 or 16. But it was still really fun, and it can be done. That's the thing. I just wanted to see if it could be done.
Still seems worth it.
Yeah, I think it was, definitely. Because it looked pretty. They were utilizing the space, and now the kids have something fun that they get to decorate with. E. Wigginton said, did I miss the name of the pumpkins? Jack B. Little. Melinda said, open bay shed, is that a sort of pole barn? Yes.
As I was looking online, it looks like there's a million names.
Oh, really?
It's like a 3-sided pole barn.
Yeah.
Or some people call it a machine shed, but it's open on the front. There's no doors.
Yeah.
So it's really just kind of
3-sided building.
covering.
Yeah.
You just put some poles in the ground and Yeah, it's
I
real
call
simple.
it open bay because that's what we call the shed at
Yeah.
Andrews that looks a lot like this one's gonna
They
look.
are. They're open bays.
Yeah.
It's like open bays of a garage with no door. So it's just a real simple building.
It'll be so nice to tuck our stuff away into that shed, though.
Yeah.
Doris said, "Nice to get things buttoned up. Do you plan to plant shade trees in the paddock area?" I think so. We'll put them in the pasture. Some shade
Maybe,
trees.
yeah.
I'm guessing we will.
Yeah.
At
You have
least
to put like fences around them though, so
Yeah.
the horses don't snack.
Diana said, "I planted many squash types and every year have little to no harvest." That's a bummer. My plants are always destroyed by squash bugs and vine borers. What do you do to avoid them, or are they not in your area? I've never dealt with vine borers, but squash bugs, yes, big time. I remember the first year we did the cut flower garden when it was out in the middle of nothing. I didn't have squash bugs that year. It was like this
It
miracle.
was a gift.
It was. And then my dad was like, "Well, usually when you till up a raw piece of ground, it takes bugs a year to find you." And I just we didn't have issues in that space at all. Like I didn't have corn smut, which is a fungal thing. I have it now, or a little bit. And so we rotate that. But squash bugs, I will check leaves on the daily, and whenever I find eggs, we pick those off and toss them. You can, kill or pick the adult squash bugs that I can find and get rid of those. And you can spray preventatively too. One year we did kind of a rotation of Captain Jack's dead bug. We used diatomaceous earth, which didn't look awesome because it was white powder all over everything. But Paul went out there and he's like, "I'm just going to try this." And he just put it everywhere and just kept that going. And that kept him down. Of course, that once it gets wet, it voids it. So you have to reapply quite a lot. What else did we use that year? And we might have used a neem. There are some synthetics that are really good, but if you're going to eat your pumpkins or squash, I probably wouldn't spray them with that. Like there's Tempo. People use that for spider barriers on their house all the time. It works really well for that. The residual is a lot stronger, but then you have to think about your pollinators when you're spraying stuff like that. So anyway, there's several different plans of attack, but we try to do daily maintenance and preventative with some organic stuff. Mary said, "How do you remember to do certain tasks like spraying ash trees for borers?" It's a systemic insecticide for ash trees, so you just apply it to the ground. It's not a spray. That's where people get that one wrong.
Oh.
So, want to make sure, do not use that as a spray, a foliar application. It is a ground application that the tree takes up. Do you use a 12-month to-do list, a 4-season to-do list, spreadsheets? We don't really have anything right now, but I think we're going to implement, especially spraying spreadsheets next year. Because we had such a horrid spider mite problem this year that we want to know what is being sprayed on a weekly basis, what day you sprayed, what you sprayed with, what the dilution was, and really keep track of that because you have to rotate through sprays, especially for spider mites because they build up a resistance.
I mean, I can hardly remember myself when the last time I fertilized the lawn. Was that 3 weeks ago or 4? Was it 5 weeks ago now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you write down the date that you did something, because you kind of want to get fertilizer. I mean, fertilizer is easy because you can, for annuals, it's every Tuesday or whatever your weekly day is. But for things that you're doing every 5 weeks or so, it's you kind of need a schedule.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad thing. That's for sure. And it seems like such an easy thing to do. After you're done with your day, just write down what you did real quick.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be long, but it seems like that is such an insurmountable task.
Right.
It's kind of like when I organize a drawer and buy the organizer and it looks great, everything has a spot, and we still have problems. Getting the things in the right little hole, it's just there's some kind of a block there for all of us. I don't know. Kathy said, "Good morning, more trees. All of those beautiful dahlias. Have you ever grown small pumpkins in a pot? I don't have a lot of space in my yard as I live in a townhome, but I've always loved to grow vine crops. Maybe I'll try some next spring in a large pot."
Well,
that would be really interesting. You could
none
do
of
a
the pumpkins
trellis.
will grow in the pot. Right?
Well, it'll go over the sides. You could put an obelisk though and kind of train the vines up, and if they're small pumpkins, they can just be little ornaments. That would be really fun. I might do that too. Teresa said, "How is Benjamin's fall list coming along? Hopefully he's able to check off quite a few things." Benjamin and I made a fall list of activities that he wanted to do, and we're coming along on it quite nicely. We have a pumpkin carving party on Saturday night. And I think the one last thing that we want to do, there's a big farm festival sort of thing that's set up over in, is it Nampa?
Cuna.
Cuna, Idaho. And so we'll take the kids out there for some fun. And yeah, but we're cruising right along on that list. Carlene said, what kind of flowers did you and Aaron have at your wedding? I have no idea.
Yeah, whatever Ron and Suzanne
Yeah,
did.
I had a picture that was like this big in a magazine that just kind of captured the essence of what I loved. And I didn't know at that time what was in season or what they could get, their hands on. I just showed them the picture and I was like, this is what I kind of want it to look like.
Wasn't it a lot of white stuff?
Go to town. Yeah. Our colors were white all the way like to chocolate brown. So it was like white and shades of cream. And then the bridesmaids were in like an espresso colored dress. It was pretty. And there was like gold and stuff. I think a little bit of gold in there. Anyway, yeah, it was really pretty. And they did a great job. But yeah, it was a lot of whites and greens and then kind of typical, I think. Okay, next video was clearing annuals out of the flower garden.
Yeah.
Aaron's favorite chore. Digging and potting Lisianthus. I saved 2 Lisianthus plants to just see what they would do in the greenhouse because they looked so good. And then saving stock seeds. We had Quartet Rainbow Stock. This is the little tray I gathered of seed pods that day. And then we left that little patch of stock. So that will sit out there until the very end because I want whatever pods are on those plants to mature so I can gather more seed. And then you popped in the lawn mowing footage at the end. It was super satisfying to watch that. And the grass is looking so nice.
I like doing that more
than clearing out annuals.
I'd much rather be putting lines on the lawn.
What do you think we were out there total? Like 2.5 hours?
It wasn't that long. It
really wasn't bad.
Like when you're in the middle of it, the whole time I was just thinking to myself like, oh man, I would love to be on the Bobcat just mowing all these things down.
He kept on throwing out suggestions, all of which would create a much bigger mess.
Maybe, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Sherry said, will each of those tiny seeds produce a full-size plant, or do you have to plant a bunch of them together? No, each one of those tiny seeds will produce a full-size plant. We start them inside early, though, and then transplant them out into the cut flower garden once it's warm enough. But they are a cool season flower, so it's one of those that you can pop out there earlier. But Quartet Rainbow has just been amazing. There are other varieties in the Quartet series that might be as good of performers. I just haven't tried them yet. But the thing I notice about this one, while our other varieties of stock, like Cat's Marine, something like that, there's a bunch of different varieties, they fizzle out in the heat and they just kind of go away. Well, the Quartet Rainbow just rocks it through the whole hot summer. I mean, we had over a month of 100+ degree temperatures. The stock didn't even mind it at all. That's the kind of flower that I want out there. Something that's gonna take up space. I want it to be worth it. So that one is definitely worth it. Becca said, I remember when the whole South Garden looked like the dirt lands. I can't believe how lush, beautiful, and green it looks in a few years. Incredible work. Wow. It is kind of incredible when you really think about what that space looked like. And the whole first year, like we've been in that space 4 years, but the whole first year was like infrastructure and the cut flower garden in a completely different spot. We didn't really do much. I mean, we planted like the spring groves, right?
Right.
There were a few things.
We got a couple trees in. We got the spring groves. We got the lane put in.
I'm not even certain we got the spring groves in because the linden trees were sitting up against the high tunnel all summer long when we had the cut flower garden, and then we wintered them over and didn't plant them till the next year. Right. So like most of the stuff's only been out there for 3 years.
Yeah. Did we get the orchard
We might have got the orchard going. Yeah. And there's still holes out there, but they're like going away pretty quick. Yeah. Chris R. fan said the amount of seeds from those pods are just amazing. How do you store them? Just in little glass jars here in the studio. Works out really well. You can use little envelopes, seed envelopes as well. Ruth said, do you ever get crazy things growing out of your dump area? No, the occasional sunflower is mostly what we see.
Yeah. But
we just don't have enough moisture to make a lot of extra growth happen around here, unless you mean to have it grow. Carrie said, I've been searching online trying to source Quartet Rainbow stock seeds for several years with no luck. That's why I'm gathering my own. This year I reached out to Johnny Seeds and they said it's been discontinued, which doesn't make any sense to me. Do you have any inside info on why such a beautiful, prolific bloomer would be discontinued? I have absolutely no idea why they would remove that one, but I don't know if it's just Johnny's, but I think Territorial Seed had some last year.
Oh.
It was expensive, but they had some, and I don't know if maybe they've sold out since then, but that's one of the reasons why I only planted this one variety so that I could gather seeds and kind of continue on my own crop of them because I like them so much. Lori said, what is that fancy auto-emptying grass clipping attachment you have? I totally need to get one of those.
Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, that's nice.
That is the John Deere 20 bushel material collection system, I think is what they call it. And it's amazing. Once I started dumping enough grass where, normally with the grass dumper, you've got to like pull the thing out and then flip it upside down and dump it. And you usually get grass on your shoes because it's a lot of weight and you're keeping it close to your body and it gets stuck. If it's wet at all, and so you're like, it's a lot of work. But when you can back up to a pile of grass and just dump it from the seat, it's amazing. So I was really excited to get that. Highly recommend.
Tina said, do you keep any sunflower seeds for roasting and enjoying around the fire? No, I don't ever eat sunflower seeds. Do you?
No.
I put them in broccoli salad, like shelled ones.
Yeah.
But I don't really find myself like wanting to eat them as a snack. I don't know. Not that I don't like them, but no, I don't. We just feed the birds and the chickens. And the squirrels, apparently, at this moment. There's a lot more squirrel activity. Lisa said, have you thought about what you're going to call that space now that the cut flowers are gone? Obviously, you can't call it the cut flower garden, maybe the fountain garden. Well, it'll still be a cut flower garden, essentially. I mean, we're going to be planting a lot of the same things still in that space, but just differently. I don't know what we'll call it. The formal South garden?
Yeah, something about the lindens.
Linden garden. I can't say linden very easily.
The linden garden.
Linden garden.
The boxwood. It'll probably end up being the formal South garden.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing, I think. Monique said, this is probably a silly question, but how do you get the nice lines in the grass? Is it automatic or do you have to change some sort of setting on your mower?
So I have purchased, I can't remember the name of the company. I'll put it on the screen, but it's a striping kit.
It's like little rollers at the back of the...
Yeah, it just puts a little bit of weight on the grass and kind of rolls the grass over the direction that you're mowing. And then when you go mow the other way, it rolls it the other way and it kind of just gives it, the lines. You'll get the lines anyway, even without a striping kit, but a striping kit helps the lines to be a little more uniform.
Yeah. The last group of questions are from the recap video from last week. Donna said, you talking about an entrance gate reminded me, are people still driving into your property? How rude if they are. It doesn't happen quite as much as it used to.
It's pretty rare.
Yeah, I would say just because I think there's a lot of people who turn around at the entrance. I think because our entrance is so much further away from the house, we don't notice it as much, and it just forces people to stop there. There's a big sign that says private property, no trespassing, and people will still get out on occasion and take pictures, like with our house way in the background, and then they'll notice our cameras and get
I've noticed it's quick. Not the types of people that are driving through are oftentimes local, and that bothers me just as much.
Yeah, me too.
Because we've got kids and sometimes they're driving really fast and they're just trying to get somewhere, but you can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
It's a dead end. And
it says that at the beginning of our road too, like dead end.
It
like
does.
Don't.
But people don't read signs. And then I've also noticed with the construction, there's been a number of subs that have come to work on the houses that they're building over here, and they try to get there from our house. And so they'll come in and they'll like drive around and try to figure out
sprinklers. We've had so many grass sprinklers broken from people driving on our grass.
Yeah. I don't understand how people can't just stay on the road.
I don't either. I wish that there was some like repercussion for that.
If you could have some kind of like a spike strip or something, I would love.
I know, that'd be great.
I would love to, pop the tires of everybody who can't stay on the road. It seems so simple.
Yeah, there's huge areas to turn around. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
In areas where there isn't space to turn around, I get it. But in places where there's clearly enough, it's like, remember that one DoorDash driver that ran over the tree? It was like a sea of just open space.
It was egregious.
There was nothing. There's like, if you look at the footage, I'll throw it up.
Okay, yeah, but the thing about this one is that they hit it and like bent the tree back, and then did it like 3 more times. Like, do you think that the same action is going to produce a different result?
Right. So I think that's the frustrating part, is when people can't stay on the road when there's clearly enough space to stay on the road.
Yeah. So the gate is going to be really, really nice. I think it just adds that little bit of security, but also I think it's going to be really fun to garden around, because it's going to produce or provide, I guess, that structure up there. And so I think it'll be really fun. We've got some really fun ideas, especially to the left of it, because we've got a bunch of open space right there. I think that'll be really fun to have there. So the posts are up, the gates will be hung next, and we probably won't even do pillars till next spring.
Yeah, probably.
Which will be nice, because we'll get to live with that gate and kind of see what size of pillars we want.
Yeah.
How tall, how wide, all of that business, if we want lights on the top or out the front. It'll be nice to have lights up there as well. But that'll probably be next spring at this point. Chris R. fan said, I just returned from a 16-day trip to England to see my family. I'm jealous. And have had to really catch up on all your videos, including the dream stream. My goodness, how beautiful. Question. During the pond/stream process, did you ever feel like you didn't have control over your space? No. I didn't even think about that. I feel so comfortable with the people that are here.
They're all super respectful.
Oh, yeah. And I just, it was just all fun.
It's just a different, they're all like owners of companies.
Yeah.
And so they're all the ones that, they're the ones that get the calls from customers if one of their employees, damages something. You know what I mean? It's it's a different mindset. The owners of companies are the ones that are always like the most, I feel like,
they have to deal with all of
respectful
those
of people's spaces. Like, we don't, you got to do this right. Otherwise, we're going to lose our business here, Yeah.
Also, a lot of not all of them, but several of them that were here were contending for the Artist of the Year position too. And that, I think that was the last project that was kind of counting towards that, I think.
Yeah.
So everybody was kind of like top notch.
Right.
Yorkie said, washer and dryer, can you switch positions? I had shown in one of our past videos where I went in and switched laundry, and our dryer and washer doors open to the center. And can our dryer and washer switch positions so that they would both open?
The dryer can switch. Would it be worth it to switch the dryer?
So the washer would
So you just have one door in the way instead of two?
This. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's going to be one door in the way, there may as well be two.
But no, you can't switch. We talked about that last week, I think.
We talked about the doors, but they're talking about the whole unit.
Oh, no.
No.
I mean, we could redo the plumbing behind, yeah, it could be done. Anything can be, we could tear down the house and, rebuild a new house. But cost effective, those are really hard decisions to make sometimes. If you're like, is it worth the money?
Well, because we're talking about putting the laundry room somewhere else too.
Right.
So
we want to take it upstairs because there's no
living.
There's no rooms downstairs that we live in.
All the living room or the bedrooms are upstairs. That's where the majority of our laundry comes from, and so we're trucking these big, heavy laundry baskets up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
Terry Parrish said, question, Laura, I just ordered 3 different varieties of geranium seeds from Swallowtail. When should I start them? Zone 8A. I feel like you started yours pretty early, maybe December. I started one little batch of them, I think right at the end of November, just as an experiment. But typically you'll want to start those. I mean, December and January are a really good time. If you want them to be on the verge of blooming, you want to start them early. If you're planting them out like May-ish. Chris said, what are voles? Is that another name for a mole? They're different. Voles and moles?
I don't know what the difference is between mice and voles.
I think voles are a little bigger.
Yeah, they're all really similar. It's just like a little rodent.
Yeah, they're the worst. At that football game last night, there were vole tracks everywhere in their grass, like big ones.
Just a big year for voles.
Yeah. Jordan said, will you carry plants on the store? No. Also, how do worms get into container plantings? I don't know. How do they just appear? Because that happens. I don't know if they travel up through the drain hole, or are they existing in the soil or in the plant, in the root ball of the plant that we put in there. But in those containers along the driveway, there were a ton of earthworms.
That's true. Yeah. It must be where do worms come from? It must come in from bags of soil and stuff.
I don't know, but bring it. I love it. If they aren't the bad kind. I know that there were some questions about them being jumping worms or something, and no, they weren't. I've never seen those here. Maynard Greenhouse said, here in New England, where we have plenty of native trees, a big complaint for our customers is having too much shade to plant the sun lovers. I understand why you guys have such a different perspective in your heat. Do you have native trees that survive? Junipers.
Native trees, I mean, only along ditch banks.
But junipers will survive. If they can take hold. It's like Great Basin.
Maybe, yeah.
Sagebrush.
But they need help to begin with.
Yeah. Well, there's some, they pop up in the hills.
In the hills, but not here.
Yeah.
I'm talking where we are, nothing, no tree will survive unless there was water there at one point, and then maybe if it gets established, but even then it'll just be a slow death and it will eventually die. Unless it's getting some water from somewhere.
Yeah, they can hit aquifers. Depends on
Yeah,
what water level you're at.
If it's hitting a random aquifer, but it's not because of rainwater.
Yeah.
But I've heard that our water level actually over the last 100 years has risen significantly in the area because of all the farmers.
Yeah.
They've diverted so much water to water the crops around here.
Yeah, there's water aplenty here. It's just under the
in the ground. There's a lot of water. In fact, I've even heard some farmers have to pump some water out because their water table is too high. I don't know if that's true or not. I think your dad was telling me that.
Yeah, maybe along the river.
Yeah.
Farmers along the river.
Yeah. But anyway.
You guys, that is it for today's recap video. Thank you so much for all the questions. I hope you're having a great start to your week, and we will see you in the next one.